Hey guys, Samuel Larsen here, founder of Crocus.com, and today we are going to take a look at some of the most beautiful designs you'll ever see and kind of think like, where does a design start to fail you and where does a design actually help you increase your sales. So before I do that though, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We have a ton of great content coming up and it's just getting better and better. Now let's jump into this one. And we are going to start from a Moment, which is some kind of a meditation drink apparently. Drink your meditation. That's their value proposition. Now, a couple of things here. It is very design centric, but the design actually drives the value proposition. So you can find out from here, it's a drink, you probably do it while you work, and perhaps for the busy people. And then you have a little bit of like who's the target audience, and very limited in terms of copy, how much copy there is on the page. But they have thought of what they are going to say very carefully. And this is obviously a lifestyle brand, so there they don't need to say that much. They just like have more of an imagery, and that supports the message. So it's sort of implied, not expressed exactly. And this is the kind of thing where founders and owners and marketing people usually love this kind of stuff, because they can be proud of this site and they can see that, okay, it fits the brand, etc. And oftentimes there is a little bit of an over-focus on the design, mostly because it's the fun stuff. The fun stuff is to design the page, and the copywriting, etc. is less interesting oftentimes for people. And that's a good mental model to understand, because then you should fight against that tendency when you are doing your own store. With our clients, we always recommend that they start from the copywriting. So you have the idea what you are planning to say, and then the design fits around that story. Because otherwise you will have to squeeze in what you are planning to say. And after that, like the design is one way, and then you kind of have to like fit in the copy to the design, not the other way around. So the message is more important than the design, and the design can be adopted to pretty much any message. Now, quite a beautiful front page. Probably most people would say it's very unconventional in many ways. You only have a couple dozen words at maximum. Now, if you're taking a look at this from a heat map perspective, you have this kind of where the attention usually goes. Where this design becomes okay is because it has so much white space. And it's clear where the iPad should go. So it's not overwhelming. I'm going to show you some overwhelming designs in a second, so you get an idea of what's wrong with those. Here it's very simple. You have left-right content, image, message, call to action. So there's a high likelihood that everything on this page will be seen. And that's the good benefit of an approach with less copy. So it definitely invites you to read and learn about the product itself. Now that's very interesting and very important, because we have basically two brains. You have your old brain, the mammalian brain, that is just like interested by novel things. So here in the beginning, they get people curious, drink your meditation, and have a happy emotional benefit here. Now, after people start reading it further, they start engaging a different part of their brain, which is the more newer neocortex area and the frontal lobe of their brain. So we just want to make sure that people feel curious and secure at the first view, and it's not overwhelming, so that they will keep reading on. All right, looking at the next store here, it's good to keep that principle in mind. So if you think of this store and the first impressions, do you have an idea what this store is even about? It says extra vitamins, and then you have a little bit of a slideshow here. So it's good to remember that we are reptilians first, mammals second, thinkers last. That's the order. So survival and first impressions matter a lot. Emotions, connections, rewards matter secondary. And then thinking, planning, deciding matters the least. Now we are so used to certain type of e-commerce stores that this kind of layout can be very difficult to comprehend and use. So you have this full product images that I can't even like easily fit the entire thing on my screen. And then a very branded store. in general. The info and cards are like having all the different colors. And in general, it can be very difficult for the human to focus on or understand what's going on at first. However, it is definitely based on a brand. So there, I can't like really fault them for doing this. And most likely they couldn't sell these stores on these products on a very typical Shopify store. So they have taken an approach here. Here's the product page. Another one that is quite difficult to understand, very unique as well in terms of how they do it. With these kind of stores, you have to keep things very simple. So even their infos are very, very simple. There's not really anything complicated here. So it's good to keep these in mind. And if it works for your product and brand, these options are available. Not the easiest thing to launch, but you will definitely stand out with a store like this. Now, where this brand does a little bit worse, in my view, is just the overwhelming aspect here. So you have so much going on. So it can be a little bit difficult for people to breathe and feel secure about this. So that's just the nature of this. So in a way, you could say that this store is less usable than the first one. Partly because they haven't been using a store like this. So from that perspective, it's not very intuitive, at least. It's a very unique experience. And I've often seen this website here being stated as one of the worst websites there is. However, I think still this does fairly well as a site, just because it has gone to the extreme of being what it is. And that's an important thing to consider. You have made a decision to go to one way and not the other. So in a way, like, you can think of it as like anywhere in midway, you are sort of lost. Either you go all out or you don't go at all. But I can tell that most general stores should definitely not look like this, because this is just sort of very impossible to use long term. Too many things going on, and just way too many distractions, of course. So let's move on. And I wanted to take a look at SockFancy next, because they have an interesting case here where they actually had a previous design and then abolished it and picked a newer one. Now, it's of course nice to see that people are tweaking their site, because everyone's just tweaking their traffic, but very few people are actually optimizing their site constantly. And traffic can give you that immediate high, quick win that the site optimization necessarily doesn't. And a few years ago, there was this approach that was way more focused on the copywriting. So the sort of copy first approach that I talked about earlier. And that worked really well. Like, even if the sites were ugly, just having clarity and keeping your promises helped and worked for e-commerce merchants. And this was before design had really taken over at a high level. And in many ways, the uglier sites, as long as the message was clear, they converted better. There was that concept that ugly pages actually are better than the pretty ones, because the pretty ones are just a distraction. However, I want to look at the principles here. So, awesome socks delivered every month. Free shipping, cancel anytime. Very, very clear what this is about. And you have an image of a little bit of those socks that you would get here. Now, taking a look at the current front page, you have awesome socks delivered every single month as the value proposition. But they also have different banners here. So it's going around and say, drop it like it's hot. Okay, and then you have the call to action that doesn't look like a button. And then socks built for comfort and durability. Well, I mean, most socks are built for either comfort or durability, so it's not really unique, right? So this is sort of taking the marketer's approach to this, and not really the CRO person's approach. So again, comparison. Awesome socks delivered every month versus this one. And that can get really complicated. Most likely, they weren't able to sustain themselves with this subscription model. So they switched over. However, I think they did the switch quite badly. So here's a how it works section. Very simple. You have pick your plan, customize to you, unwrap awesome monthly. So that's the second section. I think somebody got a bit excited about having all these products on the front page, and maybe got all giddy about showcasing everything, so people can just pick whatever they want. But then it's focus is brought into everything, where it really isn't anywhere anymore. So it's just a very confusing socks face masks. I think they probably lost a little bit of that essence of what they actually are as a company. So that's Sock Fancy, and we can look into this a little bit further. I guess this is like a little bit of a bug here. Pre-order the Springboks now. Then yeah, subscription plans and custom socks with your logo. So that's Sock Fancy. Even the footer is traditional, but it's very usable. You have your subscriptions, and here, what are you going to do with this one? It's even too difficult to read and comprehend that these are links. So I want to look into one last example here to drive all this home. Basically a combination of great design, great copy. You could say that this is already one, but I think this next one takes it to another level. And for this one, it's important to understand this. Like we said, think of all these different things here. So thinking, planning, designing is of course important, but these other two will also need to be there. People can't actually even make decisions if they don't have an emotional aspect to it. Because they've tested this with people, and that they don't process emotions, they can't make decisions. It's really shocking. So all decisions are ultimately emotional decisions, even if they look logical. All right, enough theory. Let's jump into these examples before we wrap it up. By the way, if you haven't already clicked the like button, you obviously like this stuff, so click the button, please. And yeah, you can subscribe to the channel. We put out good content here. All right, the cat food that loves the planet. So a couple of things here. You probably have the most boring product, cat food, but they have made it exciting with design. So package design as well as the page design. And here, value proposition is clear. 3 things: insect-based, nutritionally complete, and cats love it. So that's the 3 points that they're looking to hammer down through your throat, basically, until you really believe it. So here, they basically double down on it, which is a great thing in general, because you don't necessarily believe it from the first one. So if you want more information, you have that here. Then there's a little bit of authority here, as well as a nice authority introduction to the actual expert. So it's not just like some boring company doing this like without a face, mass producing this thing. It's Rory the Wet. And then you have reviews and some social proof as well. So pretty simple, very design heavy as an approach, but still notice clear sections, lots of white space, or in this case, like whatever color this is, and clear color schemes. Nothing's really out of order here. It's still easy to understand, even though it's a copy heavy approach, or a copy first approach, I should say. Let's look at the product page. So still the same things. So you have the value propositions here, you have colorful imagery, powerful emotional impacts with the happy cats, and a lot of the same things. So really not a lot of information is needed here. You have the same things here, and it just works. So that's Lovebug. I wanted to finish this with this one. Even with design, fancy pages, it comes down to basics. Relevance, clarity, boost your sales, distraction, anxiety, hurt it in general. And design is a decision of like how much distraction and anxiety are you willing to live with. And then you just have to accept that it's a little bit of a balance between branding and optimization. Thank you very much for watching. If you are already having some e-commerce success, you can go to ProGuruscom.com/apply. We can see if you could be a good fit to work with us on improving your site and your conversion rates, average order value, purchase frequency, basically getting the most out of your existing traffic. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.